Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Sox on Tap.
Tony, my first reaction is just, fuck yes, let's go.
Sox versus Richmond. That's where it all starts. Because it all starts taking care of business in-house in the Central Division.
That's right, I'm a meatball.
You got to bring that top button swag, baby.
It is always great to beat the Cubs.
And I'm a homer, so I always say they're gonna.
Dallas Keuchel Lansing got some beards that you should be afraid of.
What everybody said when he gets out there, it's me versus the other guy, and I'm going to beat him. So I just love that mentality. It's cool and fucking tough.
Steve, would you say that Tony is mad online?
I would definitely say that.
The White Sox winner.
White Sox fans, welcome in. It's Sunday Funday with Sox on Tap. We've got a three-way show today. I'm Jonnie here alongside Tony on Tap and NWI Steve. Boys, Sox take 2 or 3 from the A's. Feeling pretty good. Victory beers flowing on a Sunday Funday.
Victory beers are flowing, Johnny. We will crack them. Cheers, boys. It's a victorious weekend. It's good to be back here talking White Sox with you guys.
Hey, yo, boys, it was a lot of fun. I was at the ballpark today. Good, lively environment. You may or may not have seen me in the mix with the hysteria after the Eloy Jimenez home run. If you go back and check the footage, you may or may not see a certain member of the Sox on Tap crew in there.
Confirmed. I saw it. I seen it. So, yeah, you were there. You were there in attendance. We were all there together Friday night. That was a great time despite the outcome. We're going to get into all of this weekend series stuff. A little trade deadline talk. Luis Robert, the curious case surrounding his injury status, and we'll head to the Royals series in this edition of Sunday Funday with Sox on Tap. Make sure you're subscribed to On Tap Sportsnet on YouTube so you can jump in the comments here. We can feature them during this show. So, guys, this weekend did not start how we wanted it to, but they picked it up and they figured it out Saturday night. Took a little bit of luck. However, you need breaks in baseball. They were able to get that, and then it propelled into a Sunday win to take the series here. So, overall, decent weekend.
I'll say so, guys. I mean, yeah, Friday was an absolute shit show, and we wanted them to clean it up, go win a series. That's exactly what they did. Obviously, this is supposed to be the bum slaying tour. We've talked about that. Sweeps are cool and tough. We know sweeps are cool and tough. They weren't able to get a sweep, but for all intents and purposes, winning these series is going to lead to a winning record at the end of the bum slate tour. I'm happy with what we saw.
Getting 2 out of 3, it's, that's what I think most of us anticipated happening here this weekend. This first week in this first kind of stretch of this 19-game bum sling tour here, you go 3-2. So not where you want it to be, but you'll take it. You're back over 500 now, and let's just find a way to keep building some positive momentum here.
Yeah, I would say I think Saturday night, big turning point here in this one. I know we can dive into some of the issues that took place Friday night, but Saturday night, Tony, your baby boy, Gavin Sheets showing off the power. Absolute no doubter out to right field. How good did you feel about that one?
Feels great. I mean, I don't mean to call anybody out here, but there was so much Gavin Sheets slander on my timeline when I open up my phone. And, we've been working hard in the backyard. We've been putting balls on tees. I've been chasing the wiffle balls down. We've been doing all the drills. I mean, you got to say there's so much work that's going in here, and to see it pay off. I mean, it just makes me so proud to see when this pays off, because man, the doubters, the haters, everybody's going to be telling you that this guy doesn't belong on this team. And we work hard out there. I got to say, Gavin and I, we work hard out there. And, he proved some guys wrong. Big fly. And then you go get the double in the 9th inning, going the opposite way. I mean, we've been working on that. We know how we feel about the shift here in this household. And, things have worked out good. So I just got to say, I mean, it felt good. Afterwards we went out for ice cream and we talked about how good that feels, winning ball games. And Gavin was happy and I was happy and things are good. We're going to just watch that continue throughout the year. He's definitely saved the season.
It's nice to see you have that kind of fatherly pep in your step once again. It had been a tough, 7 to 10 day stretch or so. Obviously, you could kind of see it wearing on you a little bit. So Obviously me not being a father, in any capacity here, you were beaming with joy to see him
Yes.
get back on track here yesterday. And, that was definitely a big moment for this team here. Obviously, if you lose these first two games to this Oakland team here, that's the type of thing that could really spiral quickly. I think, especially given how poor the performance was on Friday night, knowing that there's going to be a Tim Anderson suspension, also that's going to result from it here. So that's the type of thing that can put a lot of bad juju, as our boy Buzz would like to say, around this team here. And they were able to turn that tide, and it was very needed.
Yeah, big moment. I think it is the key phrase there, Steve, that you used. You talk about moments throughout a season, and sure, you wouldn't think that a end of July series against the Athletics can be one of those, but it can be any given day. And I'll tell you what, my reaction, it was I was watching the game with some buddies, some good friends, big White Sox fans as well, and we were just like kind of lifeless until then. We wanted to get excited about something, but there wasn't a whole lot outside of Jonnie Cueto, really. And then as soon as he did that, we all jumped up, had some pep in our step, took a shot of screwball, and it was fantastic. So, Tony, I thank you for getting things worked out with your baby boy.
Hey, and I got to say, you had a moment earlier this year where you talked about changing the shirt. I have to give some credit where credit is due. We watched the first couple innings inside on the main TV in the household, and the wife and I decided yesterday that the momentum just wasn't there. We moved it out to the garage just in time to watch Gavin Sheets go yard, because sometimes, you have to make in-game adjustments. Adjustments were made, and the boys were able to close it down. So I encourage everybody, if you're watching a ball game and they're just not doing it, maybe you just got to move your ass. Get to a different TV, get to a different viewing area, set some things up the right way. It's only crazy if it doesn't work.
Right? I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious.
No, me too.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Jonathan.
Well, hey, whatever works. And it's only crazy if it doesn't work, as Tony just outlined there. All right, a couple other highlights from this weekend. You get the wild pitch offense there to save the day. I know that's kind of like a running joke meme within White Sox Twitter. But, hey, sometimes, you get a break and you got to take advantage of it. White Sox were able to do so because they were set up with that Gavin Sheets double to lead off the ninth and Adam Engel pinch running there. Other than that, how about today, Sunday, Dylan Cease doing Cy Young shit out there.
Steve, you want to take this one? I'll toss this over to you. There's just so many things to say about Dylan Cease. Steve, you want the floor? I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I would love the floor, Anthony. Thank you. Dylan Cease just going out there, continuing to do what we have seen from him all season at this point. Obviously, he gave up the home run to Ramon Laureano in the second inning, but after that, he was just nails, going out there, pounding the strike zone, getting after guys, racking up the strikeouts again today, and there wasn't really a whole lot of hard contact on him. Obviously, this Oakland offense is a little bit anemic, to say the least here, but that's what you got to do when you have an opponent like that. Go right after him, challenge him, and we saw that from him today. Put this team in a position to go out there and win a baseball game, and that's really all you can ask from the guy that is your ace at the top of the rotation. And we are at the point Dylan Cease is the ace of this team.
I was looking at some graphics yesterday on the post game, and it was wild to me to see that Jonnie Cueto has more quality starts than Dylan Cease this year. Just the historic stuff that he's done over the course of this season, stuff that you didn't see out of Chris Sale, you didn't see out of any White Sox pitcher on that 05 roster. Dylan Cease has been just absolutely phenomenal. And Steve, you called him the ace of this staff. I absolutely think he is. But you've got now a formidable 1 and 2 with Jonnie Cueto and Dylan Cease. Johnny, we say it all the time. You're only as good as your last envelope. Well, Jonnie Cueto went out there, delivered yesterday. Dylan Cease follows that up. That's how you're going to win series, is back-to-back games where your starting pitcher is able to just go out there and shove, keep your team in ball games, and let the offense get just enough to win you a ball game. I wouldn't say that, the offense was entirely friendly to either of these two starting pitchers over the past 2 days. But when we look at Dylan Cease's start today, this is a guy that's carried a sub-1 ERA through the entire month of July.
Did it
This
in
is a
June,
guy,
too.
and June as well. This is a guy that is consistently out there throwing up 6+ strikeouts every single time he goes out there. And today only 1 walk. I think that's so important. The walks have killed this team. They've killed this team so many times this year. Cease kept himself out of trouble, was able to command the zone the way that both of you guys talk about so often on this show, able to command the zone, first pitch strikes, keep his pitch count where it should be. I mean, I would look for a little bit more length out of him. But again, this was a great start for Dylan Cease. Great start.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's run it down. 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 7 Ks in the lone home run for that A's tally. Pretty damn solid day. I'm impressed with what I saw. Not too much to add other than what you guys said. Command is key. Location, location, location. Hammer that home every single time. All right, let's move on. What else is here on the agenda? We're talking about this whole weekend, not with the White Sox, but Luis Robert. Injury status. We got some question marks here. He started a rehab assignment Thursday night. He did play in that game. He got a hit in that game. And then Friday, they said he's dealing with cold symptoms. Okay, that happens. But now we hear today that he's in the White Sox clubhouse. And usually you would take that as a sign that, oh, he's close to returning, right? Well, with this and the evaluations that he's having to go under for the lightheadedness, blurred vision, those symptoms, assuming he came back to Chicago to get that looked at, and he only did 1 game in a rehab assignment. So I would not put this too positively, this development that he's back in Chicago. I don't know about you guys, though. That's just my take.
It's not necessarily an encouraging prognosis, to say the least. Obviously, we need to kind of wait and hear ultimately from Rick Hahn tomorrow before the series kicks off against the Royals. So I think collectively as a fan base, we're all kind of on bated breath right now because we all understand how important Luis Robert is to this team and to their chances of ultimately overcoming this deficit and winning this division and getting back to the postseason once again. If they are unable to have him for any length of time, it is going to make things significantly more difficult for them, even if they are in the midst of a quote unquote easier patch of the schedule. This is a guy that has all the tools, as we have seen for, the time that he has had a White Sox uniform on, and just his presence, both offensively and defensively, does so much for this team here. So the sooner we can get some news, and hopefully positive news, the better I think we'll all feel.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to dive back into a couple of home runs that were hit today, Johnny. But before we go to that, let's address some Luis Robert stuff. Not good. That's my initial reaction to this entire Luis Robert situation. Not good at all. The fact that he only played in 1 game there and is back up with the Chicago White Sox in the clubhouse, that they are looking at extra things. I'm not sure who said it, I'm not sure if it was Rick Hahn or Tony La Russa was asked a question about what exactly is going on with Luis Robert, and he kind of deferred it to, well, we'll let Luis kind of tell you if that's something that he so chooses to do. We went around the horn here just a few days ago talking about what this could potentially be. The fact that we haven't gotten any straight answers about this is a leg injury. It's not, here's an arm injury. It's something to do with his head, obviously. Lightheadedness is the only kind of thing that we've gotten, and then some cold symptoms. This seems like it's going to drag itself out for a long time. That's just my gut feeling, that it's going to drag out for a long time. I want to give some credit where credit's due. The rest of the outfield and offense has kind of picked up Luis Robert being down. And I know that the schedule is a little bit lighter, but you still have to go out there and win these ball games. I think that that's great. However, it's very concerning to me that a guy who has the ability, as Steve said, to kind of like just be that offensive force, to be that guy who can win you a couple of ball games just in and of himself, is on the shelf. There's no answers. There's no new information coming on it. He goes down for a rehab assignment, back up in 1 game after they said that there was going to be an update on him on Monday. this one's got me nervous, and not for the same reason that I think that you guys are probably nervous about it, but it's got me nervous for Luis Robert himself. I don't think that this is weird to say. I don't think that the White Sox ability to win this division is squarely on Luis Robert playing the rest of this season. I think they've got enough outfield depth to kind of navigate their way through it. We'll see how this affects them at the trade deadline, but it is scary for the long-term health of Luis Robert to be dealing with this type of a situation where there are no answers right now. I'm scared for next year.
Yeah, I am too. I'm thinking long-term like you, Tony, and I think back to some Blackhawks days with Corey Crawford dealing with vertigo sort of issues, and that can take a while to subside and even feel normal, somewhat normal again, and then let alone ramping back up to get into game shape. So I'm concerned. We'll have to see. Wait for the updates, but I will go ahead and trash the old adage that no news is good news, because right now no news is bad news on the Luis Robert front. So all right, well, you talked about some guys helping pick up in that absence. Well, one of them today, Eloy Jimenez, goes yard. Steve, as you'd said, you had a great view of that, landing just behind you out in the outfield seats there. And then Jose Abreu got the party started with a rope out to left field as well today. Steve, the multi-home run strategy, it works.
Fascinating what happens when you hit the ball over that fencing that is set up prior to the game. I have been begging and imploring this White Sox team to utilize the multi-home run strategy, and they finally took my advice. And look what happened. They won another baseball game today here. So, fellas, listen, I know you're listening. Why wouldn't you be listening to this show right now? Use the strategy more often. It's time-tested. It works.
Are you flying in the face of Frank fuck the home run Menachino right now, Steve? Are you putting your hat in the ring to be the White Sox next hitting coach? Because that's what I'm hearing. This is a breaking story here on Sox on Tap.
It's been very well documented that throughout the course of different decades that I've been a White Sox observer, I'm a big fan of the home run.
I think that should be Steve's.
When my Chicago White Sox hit too many home runs, I'd love to go back to those times.
I think that should be your new handle, White Sox Observer.
I'll take it into consideration.
That might fit you very well. Number one, I want to say Jose Abreu was starting out August. Jose Abreu just a couple days early. We know August Abreu. I think this is a good sign for him. Eloy Jimenez, some warning track power over the past couple days. Finally able to put one over that fence, like Steve said, that they set up prior to the game. Kudos to Roger Bossard for getting that constructed, erected, and set up. He's just a bust out there. But guys, home runs, fireworks at home. That's what we live for.
It's wild. It's wild that they haven't hit more at home. That really is shocking to me. But when you see that today, just a couple of comments. Hey, Abreu smoked that. That was awesome. I love seeing a nice pull shot. It feels like, and there's nothing wrong. I like any home runs as long as they go over the wall. But the pull shot's cooler than the opposite field one. That's just my opinion. I like the pull shot better. So it was fun to see Abreu hit that. And then Eloy just makes it look easy. It looks like he just flicks his wrists out there and it's gone.
Well, I was going to get really angry last night when Eloy was doing the warning track shit that we've seen all day. Johnny, I remember being in attendance at a ball game where Eloy put one on the fan deck. I want more of that. I'll take the, oppo into just over the bullpen type stuff every now and then. I want massive home runs. I know this sounds a little greedy, but I want to see those massive home runs. The only guy that has been able to do it this year, Luis Robert, and obviously we just talked about him, but I want to see those massive home runs. Steve, I don't know how you feel about massive home runs that go very far.
I'm a very, very big fan of them. I would very much enjoy for Luis Robert or for Eloy to put one on the fan deck in left field. I've been longing since that was constructed in 2006 for someone to put one up there. Jermaine Dye came close once. Former White Sox legend Mike Olt came close once. We're going to the way back machine now here from the dark days of the rebuild.
Diane Vicieto would be able to put it up there.
I mean, you're assuming he makes contact, but that's
I'm
bold
just
strategy.
saying, like you could probably get him back over from Japan. I think he hits one up there.
Well, nevertheless, Eloy or Luis, if you're so inclined, I really would enjoy seeing you put one up there and frankly scaring a small child with a projectile at about 110, 115 miles an hour coming their way. So feel free to do that. It would be
Jim
nice.
Berger gets it done.
I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. That's fine. Just
we could
make it happen. Hit the ball far.
Yeah, we could use a few of those from Yasmani Grandal, too. That would be nice. I missed the bat drop. We've only seen it twice this year, and that's concerning. We talked about him as an X factor on our All-Star Break special edition of Sunday Funday. So I'm hoping he'll heat up. I'll keep supporting my guy, but yes, come on, kick the power into gear here. We need it.
We all know that Lurie Garcia is going to be the first ever to do it.
Dude, that one in the
he's going to get chances because we know he's in the lineup every day.
That one
when he's in the lineup, the White Sox win.
That one in the DS was out to
numbers say otherwise.
Dead center last year. So yeah, he's creeping up there, Tony, to get that. All right, we've talked about a lot of good, but there was some bad this weekend, mostly stemming from Friday night. In that, unfortunately, it was Lance Lynn getting smacked around for multiple home runs, and then Tim Anderson's situation. So let's talk Lance real quick here first. And it sucks because I was looking for him to build on that nice start that he had a week prior when they had Cleveland at home for the second game of that doubleheader. What's going on with Lance here?
Obviously the home run ball, as you alluded to there, Johnny, was a problem. If you actually go back and if you look at the location on the 3-run homer to Piscotty, I think it was in the second inning on Friday. It was not a bad pitch. That was, it was like a 92 mile an hour sinker right on the black on the inner third of the plate. So not a terrible pitch. So for a guy to kind of pull his hands in and really hammer that thing the way he did, that's kind of one of those scenarios where you have to tip your cap a little bit. It begs the question, if Lance had some of the velocity that he had maybe in the early part of the 2021 season, instead of maybe that 92 mile an hour sinker, is it maybe 94? Does Piscotty get the bat around on it quick enough? So it is definitely something to continue to monitor here. He's obviously had significant issues with the home run ball since coming off of the IL here in the 6 weeks that he's been back up with the club. So just got to go back, obviously, to the footage with Ethan Katz, get into the Katz lab, figure out what exactly needs to happen here for Lance to be the guy that we saw in that start last Saturday against Cleveland.
I've been talking about this for a little while. Guys, I think we talked about it last Sunday Funday with Lance Lynn. The stuff just isn't the same. And sometimes these injuries can catch up with you just a little bit. I think Lance needs to just get through this season and kind of just look at what his pitch selection is. The velocity is not there the way it was before. And Steve, you mentioned that. But even if I go back to last year and some of the key at-bats that I saw Lance Lynn, he's a guy that's guts and nuts. He's going to go after you every single time. He's going to serve you that fastball or that sinker that's going to be over the plate in those situations where sometimes you might want to nibble away and just let somebody go. But he's a gamer. He's the guy that wants to challenge you. And what I think is happening with Lance Lynn right now, and this is just my observations, is he doesn't have the stuff to challenge this league's elite hitters right now at this very moment, whether that's injury, whether that's age, whether that's scouting reports on him. I would lean towards the first thing that I said, injuries that have taken away from what Lance Lynn is able to do. Great pitchers, and I know Lance Lynn is one of them, eventually figure it out on the other side, just the same way that hitters figure out pitchers. Lance is going to have to make some adjustments. And right now, sometimes, especially with a guy like Lance Lynn, he is not the kind of guy that wants to make that adjustment because that means that he has to concede. I think this is all mental with Lance Lynn right now. He's got to go back and say, well, if I'm not going to be able to beat you with a 92 mile an hour fastball, maybe I need to add something to my pitch selection. Maybe my changeup needs to work a little bit differently. Maybe I need to go to the breaking stuff a little bit more, be a little bit more pinpoint. I don't know if Ethan Katz is the one to fix him. There's somebody over the offseason that he can work with that can fix some of this stuff. But right now, if you're down 3-4 miles an hour on your velocity on your fastball by the 5th inning, that just spells trouble for this team. Day in, day out, every single time you start, because guys are going to be able to get around on that a little bit more, just like Steve said. So here's the mental game. Here's where you need to make the adjustments, and you need to be a little bit more pinpoint. You need to be a little bit more controlled. You need to give yourself a little bit more length in these starts. I think that this is going to be a big challenge for him. Is he the guy that can go do that and tackle that and overcome this rough stretch of his career? I think absolutely he can. But there's going to be some adjustments to Lance Lynn's game. He's not a high velocity guy, but he wants to challenge you. So that's where you see these two kind of forces up against each other, because he wants to walk off the mound and scream into the ether about how he just beat somebody. But he's got to figure out how he can beat people right now, because he doesn't have a put away pitch. He doesn't have the ability to just go right down the middle and challenge somebody. And that's his favorite thing to do. So there has to be some sort of mentality change, some sort of mental, here's how I'm attacking hitters, just a different approach. And I think that we'll be just fine. I don't know if that comes this year. I'm a little worried that it doesn't, because that's a huge factor going down the stretch here. But I'm not confident with the stuff that he has right now to be able to keep trotting himself out there every 5 days with this exact approach and this exact stuff. Something has to change, Johnny, Steve. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that's kind of where I'm at.
Right. And we've done some breakdowns here when we were talking about, X factors on the pitching side, Lance Lynn being one of those from our All-Star break special. And then we talked about him after that bounce back start too, and what he did right in that one. So I think you guys provided a good breakdown of that, but I will add in another factor that was not mentioned yet. And this is no excuse for him. Obviously, you've got to be able to just get the job done. However, it's not about who you play. It's about when you play them. And guess what? The Oakland A's were actually hot coming into this one. They 3-game sweep of the Astros, yes, and they out-homered the Sox this weekend. And they think they did it almost alone by Friday nights, when that thing started to get out of hand there. It was just a stretch where, yes, they're a bad team overall, and the White Sox luckily were able to right the ship through that. However, they were still riding the high of that hot and the hot stretch that they had prior to coming to Chicago. So we'll just offer that up as well. Lance is going to get a chance against Kansas City Royals, a team that will likely sell off even more before he throws on Wednesday afternoon. So I'm sure we'll be back at it talking about if he makes adjustments or not, and what the results are of that. So other thing from Friday night, the other kind of negative here that we got to talk about is Tim Anderson. And like you had alluded to earlier in the show, Steve, probably suspension incoming. I know he was handed one, I believe 3 games, is appealing it so he can play during that appeal process. Was pretty obvious, though. He did make contact with the umpire. I don't think you're going to screw around with that. I think the suspension is going to hold. So you're going to have to do without Tim Anderson for a stretch coming up, and not due to injury or just sitting out. It's because he'll be suspended. So that's kind of a series worth there, guys. Thoughts on the incident itself and the incurring punishment for it?
It's annoying. Just realizing that he missed, 6 weeks earlier due to injury. And now when this team is in a position here as they're dangerously close to the top of this division, to now potentially take their leadoff hitter out of the lineup for 3 consecutive days, which I think you're right, Johnny. I have a hard time believing that the suspension is going to get reduced. So I think it probably will be a full 3 games. So at what point, that appeal is heard and the suspension begins will obviously be a factor there. And that's going to shorten the lineup for those 3 days when he's not in there. Now, granted, he's not been the same guy since he came back from the groin injury back in June. The power really hasn't been there for him since coming back. So it's going to be a challenge, obviously, for this team in his absence. We've seen for how many years now, they just have a different life about them when he is in the lineup, even if he's not performing to the caliber that we have seen from him at various points here. My frustration with the whole thing, though, really just comes down to if he had better at bats and if he wasn't chasing. And because I went back and I watched the sequence kind of that led up to it and everything. It's just he's putting himself in bad positions in the at bats by swinging at terrible pitches. And so when you're doing that on a pretty regular basis, and then you're taking something borderline, in some ways you almost don't have anyone to blame but yourself for that. If you can go up there and if you can have a little bit of a better offensive approach, you're not going to put yourself in that position there. And he's got to know that when you get face to face with an umpire like that, you have to have a level of restraint, because the fact of the matter is any player is just not going to get leeway at this point. We've seen shows all across the league all season. They're becoming far too prevalent. The umpires are not being held accountable for their actions on the field and how they are interacting with players. And guys have to know that.
Not the first time we've seen Tim Anderson be handed a suspension for contacting or coming in contact with an umpire. I think this one was a little bit more egregious, just on the surface.
He was right up in his grill. Let's be honest.
He was right up in his grill. Guys, I thought the White Sox played some of, their, I don't want to say their best baseball, but decent baseball without Tim Anderson in the lineup earlier this year. You saw AJ Pollock kind of step up into his own without TA there in the leadoff spot while he was dealing with injury. And granted, a lot of this goes back to Danny Mendick just playing out of his mind over a certain stretch of the season. You wonder who's going to step up and kind of help them through that 3-game suspension. But, drop the appeal and take it against Kansas City. I don't know what you got to do here. But, the Sox had to win a couple of games, but
yeah,
go ahead.
There is Texas coming up too. So
yeah, there is Texas coming up too. The sooner you get this over with, kind of the better, in my opinion. That said, the suspensions handed out around the league are a little egregious right now, and I don't mean to drop this off, but didn't Timmy get 1 game for flipping off fans? Where's David Ross's suspension for flipping the double bird? Because that should be at least 2 games. I haven't seen that come down.
Right, if you set the precedent, right?
Yeah, it sets the precedent, but yet you've got, Barstool Starting 9 tweeting this photo out. You've got our guys over on Cubs on Tap tweeting this out. Every Cubs person's tweeting out all these David Ross double bird photos all over the place. I haven't seen the league come down on that. And then you get a guy who's being passionate on the field the same way. Grant, I know you can't touch the umpire. You can't get in his grill the same way that Tim Anderson did, but I just want a little bit of fairness here. I just want some sort of recognition that David Ross gets to just go walk on water, and Timmy gets upset about a call and talks about it, and you get 3 games. I don't know if 3 games is appropriate on this one. I would say 1 or 2. But if he flips the bird once and gets a game, and now he's getting 3 games, I get the repeat offender type stuff. But, let's go back to the Josh Donaldson suspension. So I don't know. I just feel like this White Sox team gets snake bitten by a lot of this bullshit. And I think it's kind of fucking ridiculous, if I'm going to be honest. So that's what I have to say about all of it.
Yeah, right. You just like some consistency. Like, you can go with anything when it comes to officiating, right? When you're talking about frequency of penalties in hockey or football or whatever it may be, or if you're talking about discipline, if it's going to be one case for one guy and then a different. I know each one is kind of subjective there, but like I said, a precedent. We kind of wanted that to be followed there. On the incident itself,
is the MLB okay with David Ross showing young kids that you get to just flip the double bird? Because I want LaRussa just walking around permanently with the double bird up.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
See what happens there. Guarantee you. He's suspended, and White Sox fans on Twitter would be like, "Thank God," if that happened.
All right. On the incident itself, I think it was a little bit the pitch. Sure, maybe you have a problem with the location. I don't think it was egregious enough to explode like that. However, we were talking about game situation at the time. It was kind of like a uneasy feeling throughout the ballpark at that moment, and the guys on the field were feeling it too, and you could tell. So that was some raw emotion by Tim Anderson being let out and what he thought was being slighted. So I'd have to go back and watch some of his other previous at bats that, see if you got hosed. Because I feel like that's kind of like a build-up thing where you're saying, oh, you've been, hosing me and my guys all night, yada, yada, yada. Something like that. That's what I kind of take away from it. So we'll see what happens with the suspension news. Tune in on tapsportsnet.com as soon as that gets upheld or reduced or whatever the case may be. All right, guys, moving on here in Sunday Funday with Sox on Tap. Trade deadline's coming up. We are less than 48 hours away. It'll be Tuesday, August 2nd at 5 p.m. Central Time. So last week, we identified a few targets. No moves have been made here on the White Sox front yet. Well, what do you think is going to transpire over the next 2 days here?
It's going to be interesting. I know there was a tweet, I think, from Ken Rosenthal or Jeff Passan, one of the big heavy hitters, over the weekend here, saying that he's been hearing from executives that believe that this is going to be the craziest deadline in recent memory. Now, we have heard things like that several times over the last couple of years, and they haven't always materialized. But I think given the fact that now you do have the additional playoff spot in each league, that certainly should help to drive a little bit more activity amongst teams that view themselves as viable playoff contenders. And it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with the 3 teams here in the Central. The Twins have lost today, so the Sox are now 2 games back. You have 3 teams separated by 2 games. Our good old buddy Steven Stone was commenting earlier in the week on Twitter.com that really this is the time when the GMs are going to decide who wins this division, and it's going to be who ultimately can make the savvy moves. I don't necessarily think any of these teams are going to make significant, impactful moves. The likes of Luis Castillo, what we saw the Mariners do over the weekend here. But if you can just be savvy, do what the Atlanta Braves did a year ago, kind of reshaping some of the roster. Whichever one of these 3 teams does it is ultimately going to put them in the best position to win this division here.
And how fitting now that the Sunday Funday episode is titled Your Turn, Rick Hahn. That's what we need. Tony, what do you think? What's going on here? White Sox trade deadline.
I think Steve summed that up perfectly. I don't think the White Sox are going to go off and do something extravagant, but it's going to be your same kind of deadline you saw last year for them. Go get the bullpen some help. Go get some help on the field as well. And you saw that last year with Craig Kimbrell and Cesar Hernandez. I think you're going to see some additions in here. You saw Liam Hendriks talking about how he was talking with Rick Hahn and the likes of him about, clubhouse fits and all of that other stuff. It'll be really interesting to see how impactful these moves are. One thing that we are used to as Chicago White Sox fans is guys coming here and just absolutely dying. So you don't want to see that happen, but that's going to be in the back of our minds over the next few days is who's coming here and can they continue whatever sort of success or find success once they get themselves into a White Sox uniform. There's been a bunch of names that are being thrown out right now around the league. I don't know who the White Sox end up with. I really have zero predictions or clues into what they're going to do to shore this up because, as Steve said, you've got a couple extra playoff spots here. I think the pool of sellers is a little bit lower than what it normally is this year with some of this bunched upness that you've seen. I mean, you look at the AL Central. If Cleveland didn't have as good of a year, are they going to sell? Are they going to go for it? Like that's
we plucked a piece
right
from
there.
them last year, right?
Mm-hmm. So there's not as much available to you, and that's going to drive the price of some of these guys up. I think my main concern is what do you have in the farm system that you can sell that's not going to burn you a couple of years down the road? It makes me very nervous that you're going to wind up with another one of those James Shields trades. Honestly, boys, I'm kind of nervous about that because you look at the grand scheme of things, the big picture here. You're going to have to compete against the Yankees, the Astros. I know it's baseball; anything can happen. But I don't see anything on the table that goes and puts your ball club on paper the same as any of those teams. I'm significantly worried about an overpay for a 1-year rental or a just down the stretch rental this team goes and makes. That said, the team needs to improve just to win this division. So, I mean, I would not want to be Rick Hahn over the next 4 or 5 days. I just absolutely would not. And then we'll see what happens a year from now. But hey, you have to get into the playoffs to have a chance. I know the White Sox are going to want to do that. I know all the fans want them to do that. We're going to have to judge this trade, whatever it is that they do, or no trades. We're going to have to judge that not only right now, but we're also going to be judging that over the offseason and wherever that takes us down the next 4 or 5 years for whoever we have to give up to acquire what we do. This is going to be very impactful, not only for this season, but for the White Sox in seasons to come. The cupboard is not stocked. I don't know if I've ever been this nervous heading into a trade deadline, boys.
Yeah, I think what you just said there, I would not want to be Rick Hahn over the next 48 hours. That statement, I think, rings true. Because as much as we want to sit here and play armchair GM, as that's what we do, it's tough decisions to make. And like you said, for all
I would be sitting on the couch with a one of those recliners with a refrigerator next to it.
The George Costanza special.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd have it fully stocked with Budweiser, and I'd just be sitting there and waiting for the phone to ring and see what happens.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a few specific names because obviously rumors fly all over the place, but there are some reports that have the White Sox linked to a couple players, one of them being Jose Quintana, which Steven may or may not have written an article about before that news surfaced. And then also Michael Givens was thrown out as a potential fit reliever for the Cubs there. So thoughts on these guys is kind of the only real concrete target that we have here. We know David Peralta is already off the board. Some of the big ones we knew we were going to get Castillo there either, but this is what we know. This is what we have to work with right now. Quintana, Givens, any thoughts either way on those guys?
I mean, neither one of them are particularly sexy moves, but however, they would be functional pieces for this team and they would fill some specific needs. I know that there is a large segment of the fan base that is bitching and moaning about the prospect of Jose Quintana coming back to the corner of 35th and Shields. But at the end of the day, like Tony was talking about there,
a lefty. Rick Hahn said it specifically.
Yeah,
you need a southpaw.
You do. You need that. And the fact of the matter is they're not going to trade Colson Montgomery. And their ability to get something impactful just isn't there right now. So you have to kind of take what you can get at this juncture and hope that when they get here, that they don't do what so many recent White Sox trade acquisitions have done and just completely crater. So those are two guys that I think make sense, that they are reasonable fits. They're not sexy, but they would be functional upgrades.
I'm not really high on either of those guys. In fact, those are very underwhelming. And the fact that I talked about having to overpay is right there. What does either of those guys cost you is my biggest question, because the Sox have a couple of high-end names, just a couple. There's not a lot. You're talking Oscar Colas, you're talking Colson Montgomery, you're talking about some of those guys. I'm not giving that up for Givens. I'm not giving that up for Jose Quintana. I'm worried if that's the type of trade deadline that we're setting ourselves up for. And I'm not trying to hoard prospects here either. I'm just saying I would rather go out for a big fish there, but that's going to include somebody that's on your major league roster right now in order to go get a big fish. And I know not a lot of people are very high on selling off Andrew Vaughn right now. I know a lot of people aren't high on selling off Jake Berger right now. I know a lot of guys aren't high on selling off a Michael Kopech right now to go make the impactful move. But let's go look at that AAA roster right now, guys. There isn't somebody that's pushing the envelope trying to buy for starting position time at the major league level. And that's what teams like San Diego have, who are going to go out there and hit the top of the market and kind of set whatever the market value price is. I'm extremely concerned that at the fact that the White Sox haven't tried to make a move yet, because as soon as these dominoes start to fall, the prices on some of these guys are going to get a little bit higher. And that's my biggest fear here. Yes, these guys can be functional major leaguers for the White Sox down the stretch. But both of those names feel like I'm coming to the White Sox to crater. That's my first initial reaction is Jose Quintana, Michael Givens. I'm just waiting for them to enter a ball game in the 6th or 7th inning and give up 2 home runs and it be absolutely impactful for this team and us to sit here drinking misery beers, getting pissed off that those were our trade deadline acquisitions. In fact, you go back last year, I was okay with the price that you gave up for Craig Kimbrell. You don't have that name available to you right now or that pedigree available to you right now. And you look what happened there. That wasn't a pleasant experience. I want more. Just plain and fucking simple. I want more.
Understandable. All valid points from both of you guys there. I will say that I'll go ahead and say it. I am a fan of bringing back Jose Quintana. For all the reasons Steve listed in his post over at ontapsportsnet.com. I think that's a good way to help preserve Michael Kopech. He has turned it around. I know last year was terrible when he was with the Angels, then I believe he was DFA'd or whatever. Something happened, he had an injury, and then went to the Giants. He's figured it out in Pittsburgh there. It's not, sexy. It's not like Jose Quintana when he was on the White Sox and, trading him at the peak of his value there in 2017.
I don't think I've ever been to a White Sox game, Johnny, where Jose Quintana was on the mound and the White Sox won. Don't think that's ever happened in the history.
He never got run. He never got run support. However, he could be in a hybrid role too. You have some versatility with him. You could put him in the bullpen, have him come out of there as a lefty. Obviously, right now it's only Tanner Banks. We're not getting Aaron Bummer back until September at best, right? And then I really like Steve's plan for possibly combining for a start with Michael Kopech, or just straight up taking his day if you want Michael Kopech to have the proper bullets in the tank come late September, early October, which hopefully you're playing in there. So I wouldn't mind that. Other than that, I don't know too much about Givens. Obviously, another lefty you could target there, Andrew Chafin. That's been a name thrown out there. Haven't seen him be shipped yet from Detroit. So be interesting to see. Stay tuned on tapsportsnet.com and here at Sox on Tap. We'll try to get a little trade deadline special in after the moves take place. So, guys, I think that wraps up trade deadline talk. Let's look ahead. Royals coming to town here. We'll probably be looking like a AAA team by the end of the series there, with the trade deadline being Tuesday. This is absolutely imperative. The White Sox continue the bum slaying tour here.
Go out there and take care of business. Bobby Witt Jr. went on the IL earlier on in the week with a hamstring issue, so they're not going to see him. I don't believe this upcoming series. And listen, that's the cornerstone of this Kansas City Royals team and what they are believing in their future. Obviously, we caught a little glimpse of MJ Melendez back in May when I was out in Barbecue City for that 5-game series. And he's a guy that he has infused some power into that lineup. They moved on from Carlos Santana, sending him back out to Seattle. So, this team really is in full-scale rebuild mode at this point. Brad Keller going to be taking the mound tomorrow. Old friend. Got a lot of history at the corner of 35th and Shields there. So it will be a fascinating series to watch, but you got to kick somebody when they're down right now. And this Royals team, let's just say it, they're not good. They're 40-62. Go out there and take care of business and beat a bad baseball team and do it convincingly. Don't dick around with this. Don't let them hang around the way that the Sox did with the A's in the game yesterday. Hashtag set the tone tomorrow, right away, right out of the chute. Michael Kopech, attack the zone. Go after these guys. Win a baseball game convincingly and win a series. And hell, get a fucking sweep.
Yeah, let's get the brooms out. One minor note there. Bobby Witt Jr. did return, but was only DHing. So just note on your analysis there, Steve. And then I am sick of losing first games of series. So hashtag set the tone, like you said. Tony, thoughts on this upcoming series?
Hey, go get the job done, just like both of you guys have said. It sounds so simple. Do what you did today. Hit the ball out of the fucking ballpark. Michael Kopech, go give us 5-6 innings of 1 to 2 run baseball. I think we'll be in business. it's going to be very imperative that you take 2 out of 3 here. You're 2 games back. You have to keep winning series. I know Steve got a little greedy and said, hey, go sweep this. Win the first 2, and then we can talk about a sweep. Win the first 2, and then we can talk about a sweep. I hate playing from behind. I feel like this team tries to play from behind all the time, back against the wall, and they've been dancing around this 500 thing. Waiting for this team to go and start put some distance between themselves and that 500 stigma that they've had. And they've had it throughout the past couple of years. Just start to go bury that and give yourself some space. It starts with winning the first 2 of this series.
You know, one of the other things too, we lamented a little bit, Johnny, earlier on in the week about not needing to be scoreboard watching. The Sox needing to take care of business themselves and with what they are doing. They're not going to get any help here these next 3 days.
Twins got the Tigers.
The Twins got the Tigers at home, and the Guardians got the Diamondbacks at home. So all 3 of these teams are going up against inferior opponents. So it will be imperative that the Sox not play down to their competition, which they have struggled so mightily with this season. Go out there, set the tone, and beat a bad baseball team.
We're not scoreboard watching, but we're scoreboard watching.
Right. Well, it's about, you're not getting that help like they, did in some games, with the Rockies. They lost that last one in meltdown fashion. However, there were some losses around that, you'd like to be able to capitalize on, but they weren't able to. So I think that's a good point, Steve. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was actually looking up the Twins' schedule during that time. So we can do the scoreboard watching. The Sox can't do the scoreboard watching, Tony.
Hey, as long as the White Sox are winning more ball games than they're losing ball games for the rest of this season, I think we'll be okay. The fact of the matter is, a lot of this is going to come down to not only the trade deadline acquisitions, but also the Sox taking care of business against teams that they should, regardless of who gets added to this team and this roster. Say there's no trade made over the next few days, you should still kick the shit out of the fucking Kansas City Royals. That's the point I'm trying to make.
100%. You absolutely should. It's, winnable series. We've seen them suffer too much against inferior opponents here. Like I said, I think set the tone for this one will be huge because I'm sick of losing first games of series.
Does
it's
it make
so
you
annoying.
sick? Does it make you?
It's make me fucking sick, Tony. It's just so annoying, especially when it's a team that you should beat.
I agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree.
Yep. All right, boys. That'll about do it here on Sunday Funday with Sox on Tap. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to On Tap Sportsnet on YouTube so you can join the conversation in the comments section there, and we can feature them during the show. Visit ontapsportsnet.com for all your Chicago sports literature and podcasting needs, and give us a follow on social media at Sox on Tap, at On Tap Sportsnet. Boys, going to be a wild next few days here. Hopefully get some dubs, and other than that, till next time, White Sox forever.
White Sox forever.
White Sox for